Hello, everyone. Together, we are going to see how the new discoveries in science can impact the practice of prenatal psychology. The things that we are going to discuss together is the need for transdisciplinarity, the things of genetics, the knowledge about epigenetics, the memory, the quantum physics, and how all of this can change the scene in the psychotherapeutic practice. Then we'll continue with the knowledge we get from activating the self-healing regenerative powers and what we know about metamorphosis in insects, then from hibernation in mammals, and then we'll conclude with a call to action. It was back in 2005, at least, when Peter Feder Freiberg, for the first time, spoke about the interdisciplinary as a quality of prenatal psychology. He said that it is an interdisciplinary scientific field, the practice of which attempts to integrate different disciplines with the basic questions of life and its challenges. So emphasis is placed on the interdisciplinary character, which enables different scientific specialties such as medicine, psychology, psychoanalysis, anthropology, human ethology, sociology, philosophy, and others to meet for a mutually creative interaction or cross-fertilization. Thomas Vernier, in his last book, brings this to practice. He has gathered and analyzed the data from many disciplines, honoring this transdisciplinary quality of prenatal psychology. It is not enough any longer for us, the psychotherapists, to work in isolation in our own discipline, but because there are complex problems in the society brought to the clinic by our clients, we need as psychotherapists to create groups of therapeutic elements, including other disciplines, also stakeholders, policymakers, and community people, so that we can integrate the knowledge and expertise from multiple disciplines and create new insights and approaches. First, very important change is that the academic educational curricula and the specialization trainings for prenatal and not only psychotherapy need updating, both in terms of knowledge and in terms of skills. And it is high time now we move away from separation and division and bring collaboration and recognizing and appreciating the value and contribution of other fields. No more conflicts between academia against professionals, parents against the children, midwives against obstetricians, this psychotherapeutic school against the other, hard science against the soft science, etc. It is the impact of this scientific knowledge gathered now is that we are asked to ask new questions and develop new clinical tools, look at the existing ones from a new perspective, and promote more intelligent cooperation so that we can fulfill our goal. Now, going back to the field of genetics and how this field can change the scene in psychotherapy. It is very important for psychotherapists to stay informed about the ethical, the social, and psychological dimensions of genetic engineering and help clients navigate the potential challenges that may arise. The genetic determinism, which was a thing of the past, that the belief that genes determine all aspects of a person's life, and which can lead to fatalism and lack of agency in the client, needs to give its place to a new understanding, and the psychotherapist needs to help the client understand the complex interplay between genetics and environmental factors. About the genetic testing, which can reveal information about the client's predisposition to certain conditions, which can lead to anxiety and stress, it is important for the therapist to help the client navigate the emotional and psychological implications of genetic testing. And because we foresee that the stigma and discrimination is around the corner, the therapists may need to work with clients who have experienced discrimination due to their genetic makeup. All of this knowledge about genetics are also associated with issues of privacy and confidentiality. The use and sharing of genetic information raises issues of ethical nature, and the therapists need to help clients understand their rights and risks associated with genetic information and help them understand what informed consent is, because the clients may not fully understand the implications of genetic engineering, for example, or the long-term consequences of altering genetic material. We don't want to see a new eugenics era like that in the past, and selective breeding for whatever reasons, because there are ethical questions about who gets to decide what is desirable or undesirable genetic traits. And finally, in this field, in the confusion of information from all directions, serving various interests, the therapist will be asked to help the client make the best possible decision for life or death. Now, speaking about epigenetics, we know a lot about how the stories, that the experiences of the past through our ancestors, our family, parents, etc., our own experience, but also how the collective experience, the historical trauma, or the social trauma, etc., affect us. So we know, for example, that individuals may respond differently to various treatments based on their unique genetic makeup and environmental factors. So psychotherapists today should use this knowledge to tailor the treatment plans to the individual needs of the clients. And what started as person-centered psychotherapy in the early days of the initial pioneers and Ferenczi, for example, now needs to expand and embrace the full potentiality. Person-centered practice is more urgent than ever before. Then epigenetics have told us some of at least ways of how the lifestyle, like diet, exercise, stress, use of alcohol or drugs, etc., can affect the organism. So psychotherapists need to use this knowledge to help clients make positive changes in their lifestyle habits that can improve their mental health and well-being. And also, epigenetic research has also shown that environmental factors such as experiences of discrimination or social isolation can have an impact on gene expression and contribute to the development of mental health conditions. So psychotherapists can use this knowledge to help reduce stigmatization of mental health issues by educating individuals and communities about the role of environmental factors in the development of mental health conditions. Addressing intergenerational trauma, the trauma that goes from F0 generation parent, for example, to F1 child, and from the maternal side, F2 generation grandchild is handed down. So addressing this intergenerational trauma is very important for the psychotherapists of today. They should use this knowledge to help individuals address this intergenerational trauma and break the cycle of inherited mental health problems, and also address the ancestral, the familial trauma, the historical trauma. You can see all of these traumas have got levels, and each above penetrates all the others below, and each below is interconnected with the one above. So it is not enough to analyze and work with the experiences of our client now. We have to go down deeper and analyze the inheritance, the legacy of our ancestors and our culture and our civilization, and work through time, space, and and it is not enough to work only with to know how to work only with one culture, because this one culture nation is a thing of the past. Today, with migration and all of the other aspects, economy, for example, or work migration, we live in societies where there are many cultures living together. So we usually, we are now culturally blind, and we don't even know that. So psychotherapists today need to address and recognize the cultural blindness in us, and then develop transcultural competencies until we get to the level of transcultural proficiency. Here we can see that today we live in a world where there are so many traumata, guilt, COVID-19, war, a lot, crisis, economic crisis, violence, disease, mistrust, isolation. All of these are traumata which affect, as you can see, the living people, parents, the children living, but also the babies in the womb. And as I have already explained, these environmental exposures from the maternal point of view, they affect the baby in the womb, but also the ova in this baby, if the baby is a girl, which means that this will be transferred to the children and grandchildren, while this environmental exposures to a father, F0 generation, will go to his sperm and will affect the children that will come from him, his children, and then transgenerationally to the other generations. Now, speaking about memory, there is a lot we know now because of the new knowledge from scientists working in neuroscience, cognition, etc. We now know that the memory does not live only in the brain. Memory is everywhere, every cell of our body. So today, psychotherapists need to integrate at least some of the understanding of how somatic experiences, therapy models work, like art play, art therapy, play therapy, drama therapy, movement, dance therapy, etc., etc. And the best is to create alliances with such practices so that they can provide the best for their client. The new understanding of memory highlights the importance of the mind-body connection. And in the past, there was an understanding that mental health or disease has nothing to do, is different from somatic health. Today we know that there is no such thing. The knowledge we gain understanding the somatic aspects associated with schizophrenia and or autism dissolve this myth. So psychotherapists can use this knowledge now to help clients develop greater self-awareness, greater self-regulation, connect the mental and the somatic in one, psychosomatic, or body mental, or whatever, and also appreciate the understandings that come from these two different levels, and integrate all of this and address this from the prenatal experiences from that early time. We know, for example, that until recently, the pregnant woman was not welcome for therapy in psychotherapy rooms, but during pregnancy. But now we know that when we work with a pregnant couple, then when the pregnant couple resolves their own prenatal unresolved issues, this provides the background for optimal fetal development and improve the health for their unborn babies. we know a lot about it from whole self pre-birth psychology developed by John R.G. and Roya Turner. So also, we now know that there is no such thing as past, present, and future, because everything, all time dimensions, past, present, and future, are in the now. So what happened, why it happened, what will happen again, and how this can provide a basis for understanding the life experience of a human being, and how this human being can be helped in order to achieve their goals, is part of the new psychotherapy roles, and which is asked to use new regression and progression tools, or the old tools, in a new way, so that he can diagnose, repattern, and help the client evolve. Again, it is important to promote a holistic approach to health, understanding the connection between the body and the mind, and the cell knowledge, the knowledge that is given to us by the cell, because the cell is a template for everything. It can provide a template for a work environment, for a business environment, for a political environment, for everything, if we know how to integrate this understanding on different levels. And the psychotherapists, once again, please consider using this knowledge to work collaboratively with other healthcare providers, such as primary care physicians, nutritionists, medical people, pediatricians, yoga practitioners, physiotherapists, everything, so that the unresolved issues are harmonized, healthy behaviors and habits are developed in the place of the ones that led to the disease or dysfunction. And there is a lot we know about hibernation and how it works in other mammals, like, for example, bears. And studies that are there in the hibernation field can be very useful in terms of the human conception and the technologies that are used in this, like cryopreservation of the ova or the sperm, and what happens there. So from that part, we know that the researchers from in the field of cryopreservation, they have seen that in the case of embryos, cryopreservation resulted in a decrease of viability, with only 38% of cryopreserved embryos surviving the thawing process. The same 38% of cryopreserved ova survived the thawing process, and additionally they observed an increase in chromosomal abnormalities and DNA damage in cryopreserved embryos or gametes. So this understanding should be taken into account in the case of a psychotherapist who should provide the support or the knowledge or the guidance for parents who either have to go through all of these experiences of grief, anxiety, depression, and such. Uh, Understanding all of these new technologies in this field, and supporting the parents, not serving the interests of specific entities, like, for example, cryopreservation banks or organizations, because we know that there are organizations that are interested and work in the field of conception, artificial conception, and they have psychologists, but what do they do? Do they really serve the interests of the client, the human being, or the interests of the organization? So this is another big problem that needs to be addressed. So the other thing from hibernation studies is that hibernation in animals is used to address the need to survive the organism from extreme conditions such as exposure to cold or famine, lack of food, or to reduce metabolic activity, survival mechanism. It is a survival mechanism. But this can help the psychotherapists today understand what is going on with the client when, because he's exposed to extreme stress, then freezes. And how can we use the information from hibernation help the client revive from the freeze state of survival technique strategy when he had suffered extreme stress. So this is very important. We see here some of the technology that is present. For example, now we have results of cultivating outside the womb lumps, and the information is that everything is almost ready for the cultivation of babies out of the womb. So perhaps we do not need mothers anymore, or just we don't need parents at all. Going now to the knowledge we gain from observations in the phenomenon of metamorphosis among insects, we can help the modern psychotherapist change his own roles. The knowledge we have from the imaginal cells, as Bruce Lipton presented them, and the field of metamorphosis can help us understand that the healthy self is not something that we simply have or possess, but it is rather something that we must actively cultivate and nurture through intentional efforts and personal growth and self-care. It can also help us recognize that the process of personal transformation and growth is not always easy or straightforward, and may require us to undergo periods of discomfort and uncertainty before we emerge on the other side as a transformed and more fully realized version of ourselves. A new form, same identity. And part of the work of the psychotherapist is to reactivate the transformation powers within and support the process until they become reality. Again, the well-known yin-yang can take a new dimension here. Now, activating the self-healing regenerative powers, as we have seen them work with planarias, etc., will give us implications in many ways. It will impact us in many ways, and one way is by it will provide a greater understanding of how the body and mind as a whole are capable of healing and growth, and this can be very empowering for pregnant individuals and their partners. And it can also provide, it can also help prenatal psychotherapists work with clients who have experienced the trauma, including prenatal trauma, by exploring ways to support and promote healing and growth, and help the clients navigate the challenges that may arise during pregnancy and childbirth. This knowledge of regeneration can also help prenatal psychotherapists better understand the role of epigenetics in fetal development and see stress and nutrition and how these can affect the organism and how they can impact the health and development of the unborn child. And personal prenatal psychotherapists can help clients understand how to promote healthy epigenetic changes through lifestyle changes such as diet, exercise, stress reduction techniques, etc. Above all, this knowledge can help all understand and appreciate the body's ability to heal and grow, and can help us promote a different connection with our body and mind, having them as alliances in our life journey. Then, in the field of physics, quantum mind, we have a lot of new concepts: non-locality, superposition, potentiality, humps, compatibility, resonance, bifurcation points. All of these are new words in our vocabulary, but are they just the words? Well, non-locality refers to the idea that quantum systems can be entangled in such a way that the behavior of one particle is influenced by the behavior of another particle, even when they are separated by long distances. And this concept challenges the traditional view of causality, cause and effect, and also challenges the linearity of understanding life, and suggests that events may be interconnected in ways that are not immediately apparent. From a psychotherapeutic now perspective, the concept of non-locality could potentially have implications for understanding the relationship between a mother and her developing baby, and it could suggest that the emotional and psychological states of the mother, father, the environment may have an influence on the developing baby, even when they are separated by physical distance. And this could lead to new approaches to prenatal psychotherapy that focus on creating a positive and supportive emotional environment for the mother, as well as guidance for enhancing the mother's connection to the unborn child. Another important idea in quantum mind and physics that could potentially change the way a prenatal psychotherapist works is the concept of superposition. Superposition refers to the idea that quantum systems can exist in multiple states simultaneously, and that the act of observation can collapse the system into a single state. This concept challenges the traditional view of objectivity and suggests that our perceptions of the world may be inherently subjective, and from a psychotherapeutic perspective, the concept of superposition could potentially have implications for understanding the subjective experiences of individuals, including their emotions, thoughts, perceptions, and it could suggest that these experiences are not fixed or predetermined, but rather exist in a state of potentiality that can be influenced by the act of observation. Perhaps the psychotherapist will never again wonder, is that true? Is it what happened? Because there is not such a thing as what really happened. That everything is subjective, and what is important is how the specific individual has interpreted and experienced this whatever event or information. Then, resonance. Well, the information we now know about the resonance, the phenomenon in which two systems share similar frequencies or patterns will vibrate or interact with one another in a harmonious way, then this information, in terms of psychotherapy, finds its place as speaking about the resonance, this harmonious state between the psychotherapist and the client himself, or in relationships between parents, or parents and children, or spouses, or colleagues, or nations, or whatever, visions, for example. So the emphasis that the new psychotherapist will have to make as one of the priorities is how can we harmonize the two or more parts? How can we create resonance, working and harmonizing differences and conflicts that may boycott this? Then, knowledge we have about hams, these nodes in a network which influence organisms. In the context of psychotherapy, this could refer to individuals who have a significant impact on the client's mental or somatic health, such as family members, close friends, peers, other important authority figures. And understanding the harms of the clients or in the client's network can help the client make or introduce changes or adopt habits which will help strengthen the hubs of health, disempowering the nodes of toxicity, and the psychotherapist will have to understand what these hubs of health or toxicity are in the life of his client. Then we have this concept of compatibility, which refers and describes the degree to which two the individuals are able to get along and work together effectively. And in the context of the psychotherapy, compatibility can be important in terms of the therapeutic relationship between the therapist and the client, or in the context of group psychotherapy or other forms of collaborative therapy. And understanding the factors that contribute to compatibility can help a psychotherapist build a stronger and more effective therapeutic relationship with the client, but also the psychotherapist needs to explore the compatibility of the client with his partner, with his child, his colleague, his mission in life, etc., etc. And therapists can help the clients identify communication blockages or behavior barriers that detract from these relationships, and also trace those which are very healthy and strengthen them. So the psychotherapist will also have an educative role and educate the clients into developing how to develop good communication techniques, skills for conflict resolution, how to do to do active listening to a deeper level, etc., etc. The understanding that we are all connected and that all of us exist as holons within holons can be a very powerful tool for prenatal psychotherapies in supporting the client's healing and growth from patterns of isolation and loneliness. Unfortunately, over the last years, with the COVID-19 experience, this isolation, loneliness pattern, which is an integral part, unfortunately, of our experience, has strengthened a lot. So we need to work on that by using the information we have from physics. Taking it all into consideration, I think that in the light of the new knowledge gained from the science now, will change the field in psychotherapy. We are all asked to introduce new ways of thinking, change attitudes and behaviors. In short, we are asked to think unity, study deep. It's not enough any longer to attend short courses over the weekend, even if there are 10 weekends a year, and learn from PowerPoints or short presentations like this, or a conference, which are good for updating and keeping the spirit alive, but we needed to go away from TikTok post kind of learning or studying and go to the deep reflective way of learning, which can change us, first of all, and then will create a different potentiality for the human beings. We need to ask new questions and provide good answers by just following the knowledge and its application to practice that was 100, 200, 10,000 years ago is good to take into consideration, but does not work any longer. We need to move from following rules and being followers, even if we are very good followers, to making health, to making knowledge, to becoming pioneers, to be creative users of what we observe and learn by studying and reflecting. But for this, we are asked to get out of the ego and all the ego issues like who is in control, or I am the best, issues of identity and control, and create creative alliances, working with all others, or as many as needed, professionals and disciplines that are necessary. Thank you for following me. Thank you for having this space for this sharing. And let's continue.